Hey everybody, welcome back to the Look It All podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt, with Chris McKay's directorial debut coming in. The Tomorrow War is a 2021 American military science fiction film directed by Chris McKay. It is produced by David Esselon, Dana Goldberg, Don Grainer, David S. Goyer, Jules Daly, and Adam Goldbringer. Written by Zach Dean. Zach Dean's best known for The Tomorrow War and Deadfall. Not too familiar with Deadfall. This movie stars Chris Pratt. Also, he is an executive producer, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, he is. And then Yvonne Stravosky, J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, Jasmine Matthews, Ryan Kira Armstrong, and Keith Powers. It follows a mix of present-day soldiers and civilians that are sent into the future to fight an alien army. Originally set for the theatrical release by Paramount Pictures, the film's distribution rights were acquired by Amazon due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And digital released July 2nd, 2021. While actually watching this movie, I realized that there's a couple scenes in there that I was like, this feels like it easily could have been a Christmas movie because it has the opening and ending of Christmas and it happening during that time. And I think somewhere at the development stage or the release of it was pushed back probably because of the pandemic, I believe, because it was originally due at the end of last year, 2020. Almost pushed 8 months back. So anyways, it was acquired by Amazon Studios for around $200 million. Let's see. Okay, so this movie has an 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I got to say that's probably about true. I got to be honest, I thought this movie was just okay. From the pros and cons, I'll just say, the look of it, it's got a look. It's clearly got a pretty nice visual to it. I think the cinematographer of Larry Fong knows, he knows a good look to things. He kind of has that washed out, steely gray look to it that a lot of Paramount movies, sci-fi Paramount movies have. Other movies this guy's done has The Predator, 2018. This guy was also, Larry Fong was the cinematographer on Kong Skull Island. Also Batman v Superman. Now You See Me and Super Sucker Punch, Watchmen, Super 8, 300. Larry Fong must be Zack Snyder's go-to cinematographer as well. I can kind of see it the more I look at it now I think about it. I do like the colors, the direction, it's definitely got an interesting direction. The problem that really comes into it is it's got generic movie action hero dialogue. There's nothing about it that really makes me, super excited about it. The movie is about 30 minutes too long. I think everybody that has reviewed it has said that the last 30 minutes is completely unnecessary. I think there are some pretty cool visuals when it comes down to the sci-fi elements of it, but there is some intense shit going on when it comes down to the action. It's the parts that don't have the action that I'm just not really engaged in, unfortunately. And the biggest thing that comes to my mind is that this movie's unfortunately forgettable. I watched it. I want to say I watched it Saturday. It was released Friday. Watched it Saturday. It's currently Tuesday. And I can barely remember it. The biggest parts about this movie that I remember are the fact that it was so similar to, I want to say other movies. It felt like a cross between like Alien meets Armageddon in a way. It's like a cross genre blending between a couple different movies that people have seen and that are probably a little bit better than this one, unfortunately. But I will say I think the casting is generally good. It's not. It's not. It's almost like you have a really decent, really good looking meal, but when you take a bite into it, the bite is just not quite satisfying. And I just kind of found like that was going on with this. Um, the the characters have a tonal shift in them, in my opinion, that I don't think always, uh, is, I don't know, makes 100% sense. I feel like this movie is trying to walk the line of, um, having that fun action hero sci-fi adventure, but it's also slightly too long at 138 minutes. I remember pausing it at an hour 45, thinking the movie had already it was about to end. I was like, well, I guess I have about 10 more minutes, and I guess it's about over. 30 more minutes. I was like, God. I was like, I was not ready for all of this. So, with saying that, the Tomorrow War mostly relies on the heavy use of the visuals. It's campy, but not enough. It's like campy in a way that feels like it knows it's kind of ridiculous in a way, and it's kind of tries to yada yada some of the science. And I can deal with that. I can live with the science not making 100% sense. It's if I'm bored and if I'm thinking too hard um, in between these plot lines that or plot holes that I'm just like, wait a second, does that make sense? Does this make sense? And I'm sitting here too long thinking about it. But I gotta say that um, there are action sequences within this movie that had me on quote unquote pins and needles. There's a big part of this movie where it talks about, taking soldiers from an earlier time and drafting them into the future because they need extra soldiers. And that's a really cool concept. I think the overall concept of having everybody do that is pretty fascinating. And overall, the first 45 minutes, I think, really propel this in a strong area. It's the rest of the movie that kind of unfolds into what is more of a generic action movie. I will say I think I enjoyed, like I said, the visuals, the cinematography. The story has somewhat to be desired. The writing, and some of the music felt a little bit like it should have been um, more geared in like a sci-fi realm and not so much in an action hero realm. I like if you think about most of the best sci-fi movies in the last 20, 30 years, they normally have a very memorable theme along with them. I don't feel that this has a memorable theme at all when it comes down to it. It relies more on I want to say it was more orchestric, but I can't even remember. It's just not even like a memorable theme, unfortunately for me personally. Um, if you felt it, then that's great. I will say the sound design and the creature design and you know the things that they're having to fight is really fucking cool. Um, let me see. Oh, let me see. Yeah. So the Tomorrow War received mixed reviews from critics, with praise for the concept, action, and performances, particularly Pratt's. I thought Pratt was pretty good. He's not your normal Star Lord. He's way more in dramatic Pratt mode. There's a couple scenes where he feels way more relatable, just as a normal guy, not really talking about him being uh, anything too crazy or too special. In those scenes, but just kind of giving and delivering a very subtle performance. But there's criticism aimed towards the derivative execution. So yeah, the plots feel somewhat unnaturalistic in a way. So this is where we're gonna have to leave everyone off here. For the spoiler section coming up. The spoiler section is available on luckydogpodcast.com. And you are also able to get on Patreon. You get all the podcasts early. You'll get the podcast mastered on SoundCloud. You'll get the visual podcasts on YouTube, and you'll get podcasts and other streaming streams on Twitch. So be sure to check out all of the places to find the Lucky Dog Podcast. Thank you for joining the Lucky Dog Podcast. I would give this movie probably about a 6 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10. I'll be a little bit more solidified when I post it on here. Um, I'm kind of leaning more to it, probably a 7 out of 10 because the visuals are just, pretty stunning. Um, but other than that, I didn't have that emotional pull that pushed me to an 8 or a 9, that made it that extra bit. But thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Let me know how to improve. Thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Take it easy. Here is the spoiler section. And thank you for supporting the patreon.com/lookitoutpodcast. Also go to lookitoutpodcast.com and you'll be able to check out all the entire library as well. Just started setting up a new website on there, so bear with us as we continue to grow and expand it and improve it for everybody. So yeah, check it out. lookitoutpodcast.com. Here's the plot. In December 2022, biology teacher and former Green Beret Dan Forrester fails to get a job at a prestigious research center while watching the World Cup. And that was hold on, before going past that, he fails to get the job as a prestigious research center. Incredibly relatable. Actually, recently I had some job stuff happen to me that felt like a real pushback in a way, and this is one of the first times in my job. I've been told no many times. Just as an entrepreneur, you kind of get used to being told no in some scenarios. So, or not making the sale. So when you do, it is an awesome time to celebrate. But this was one of those times I could just totally relate to Chris Pratt. Him coming home and hearing that he has to deal with all this stuff, and he's, trying to be a good family man, but his life isn't going exactly what he wished. I gotta say, I felt like I was relating to this character to one of the first times, and in a movie I've seen it multiple times. People not get their job, people not get the promotion, that type of thing. But this one felt really relatable, especially just because of some stuff that I had to go through recently. So this was one of the scenes that I felt that Chris Pratt was showing one of his more talented acting skills, acting chops. So anyways, while watching the World Cup, let me see. While watching the World Cup, soldiers from the year 2051 arrive to warn that humanity is on the brink of extinction due to a war with alien invaders referred to as the White Spikes. So, kind of based off, I'm kind of watching the trailer as we're doing this review as well. It's pretty intense how these people just bust up into the World Cup and all this. Is some craziness. Really thought it was interesting visuals. It kind of reminded me a little bit of The Dark Knight, how they stopped the football game at that one point. But yeah, so we find out about the White Spikes. We find out all this stuff about them. Let me see. The White Spikes will arrive in November 2048 and kill the majority of humanity 3 years later. In response, the world's militaries are sent into the future through a wormhole device called the Jump Link. But fewer than 30% survive deployment to return in 7 days, prompting an international draft. So this is a really fascinating intro for having everybody go. Sets this need up for needing people basically fresh off the street. We don't care who you are, moms, pops, grandmas, grandpas. Get your uncle, get everybody in, get your neighbor. Everybody needs to join this international draft because apparently the odds are just looking absolutely astronomically terrible. And once all this is all set up, I think this is still part of the strongest part of the movie. It's the setup. This also introduces, and during this part, I believe we have J.K. Simmons is introduced at that point. Betty Gilpin plays uh, the wife of Chris Pratt, and she's kind of relegated towards that. And unfortunately, I will say Yvonne Stravosky has a much more prominent role that I'm just gonna kind of keep on the down low until we kind of talk a little bit more about it. Sam Richardson. He seems to be what would be called like the comedic relief to relieve the pressure in some of these more intense scenes. The problem is this movie is tonally all over the fucking place. I gotta say that I had a great time in like a handful of scenes. Some of them he was in, but other times it felt like he didn't need to be clowning like that. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know. So can you take it easy and take something seriously? I know that you're trying to be the relief over here, the comedic relief, but my lord. Um, I gotta say, Martin Thomas on Double Toasted said this looked a lot like Independence Day. I didn't get Independence Day vibes from this as much. I got way more like Alien and Armageddon kind of vibes in a way. I don't know why that feels way more prominent to me than um, what he was saying. But anyways, that was just me. Independence Day did not feel like nearly as uh, I don't know. Independence Day. I mean, there's scenes in this that made it feel way maybe like Independence Day in some scenarios, but I would have said this felt way more like Alien in the sense that we had tight net corners where they're being followed by these white spikes, and I thought that the tension that was drawn from it was pretty strong. I think Roger Barton was on the editing on that. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Oh my gosh, it's the same editor on Titanic, Armageddon, Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, Roger Barton is a classic editor, and I think he's a classic editor within uh, Paramount because he's worked on a lot of their movies. I think like Armageddon, Bad Boys, The Island. All these movies kind of resemble this same look. Transformers. Yeah, I felt like this in my tweets. I said this looked like a Transformers movie. Um, it feels a lot like the same beats of a Transformers movie as well. Let me see what else. I actually would have thought that the cinematographer would have been the same. It's the editor. This guy even did Michael Bay's Six Underground, Godzilla, King of Monsters, Transformers: The Last Night. This dude's done a fuck ton. Okay, so yeah, and he's worked a lot for him. Um, so anyways, uh, where were we at? Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent of that. But anyways, so yeah, there is some real stakes to this movie, and we just got to have Chris Pratt coming in and save the family. Um, what do we have? Dan receives a notice that he has been drafted and drafted and reports with other draftees to basic training. Dan's ductees with Dan deduces with fellow draftee Charlie that to prevent a paradox, those drafted have already died before the war starts. Um, the draftees are sent forward in time into a battlefield on Miami Beach, but few survive. This was uh, a crazy opening. First of all, Chris Pratt having to rip off his shirt, do all this nonsense, not necessary. He's just getting his arm like, skirt in or whatever. He has to like get his arm like neuro linked, which I felt barely had, you know, it had some elements in the plot, but it wasn't really ultimately that important in my opinion. Um, but this whole part where they're being jumped into the future and they fuck up the jump, is this based off of a book? Because this feels like it would be based off of a book. This would happen. That everybody is falling from like the sky. Like they mess up. Okay, so all like half these people right here. Okay, what are we looking at? Like 200 people. And so they take over half these people, throw them in the middle of the air, and everybody is just falling from the sky like it's fucking a cheat code in Grand Theft Auto. I was like, oh fuck! I was like, this is intense. You're really gonna do them like that? You're gonna take half your troop. The reason you're losing half your troops like that is because you're fucking taking them and shoving them straight off a building. Oh my god, that's scary as fuck. So I was very surprised that that was the opening scene of them being transported to the future. I was like, damn, y'all fucked that up. And that seemed like a very interesting way to go to the future. It's like, damn, now I definitely don't want to go to the future. I don't want to be, uh, you know, uh, I don't want to be Thanos snapped all the way into the 500th story of a building, be falling my ass down like. I was like, jeez. I was like, holy Santa Claus shit. That sucks. So, anyways, so the draftees are sent forward in time to a battlefield on Miami Beach, but few survive. Having accidentally dropped them from high above the city, the field commander, Colonial Forrester, orders the draftees to rescue nearby lab personnel before the area is sterilized. I felt like they just kind of, a lot of this was like, grab the thing to do the thing to kill the thing. It felt very much, MacGuffin-like in that way. So they discover the lab's personnel are already dead, but recover their research. Dan radios command about the situation, and he's told that no one will be sent to help and rescue the stranded troops. They just fucking, like, sent all these people to death, like, straight to die. And I remember there's a government guy at the very beginning of this that is kind of trying to explain, this is what's got to go on, this is what's got to do, this is what you got to do. And at the very end of the movie, even though everyone dies, he's like, yes, everything I did was justified. I distinctly remember that. So, anyways, the so this is kind of fucked up. They do not make whatever this military personnel. I don't think they specifically say which military it is, like Army, Marines, or anything like that, special ops, whatever. They don't make them look good at all. So, yeah, Dan radios command about the situation. He's told that no one will be sent to help the stranded troops. Nearly everyone dies except for Charlie, Dan, and Doran, a battle-hardened survivor on his third deployment to the future. There's kind of supposed to be this whole thing about this guy that's, been going to the future all this many times, that just knows what he's doing. He has this, like, wears this medallion, he wears a tooth around his neck, like he's been killing, like he's been hunting bears, but it's been white spikes, and he's got the the medallion to show it. Eventually, he gives it to Pratt later. This guy just feels totally underwritten. I mean, it feels like he should be way more of a badass than he really is in some scenes, in my personal opinion. The way he goes out is just kind of like, is everyone going out? It's like, god dang, dude, can you take it easy? Oh, dude. So yeah, I thought that guy should have been written a little bit better. The survivors wake up in the military encampment in the Dominican Republic. Dan reports to Colonial Forrester, who turns out to be his grown daughter, Murray. Or Murray. I forgot how to pronounce it. Murray. I'm calling her Murray. Fuck it. And I feel like it's supposed to be like this big moment of like Chris Pratt being like, wow, she did turn out very well. But there's still like this very like strange tension between them in a way. I like everything so Stravoyevich, sorry, what's her name? Strahovich is doing. Because I feel like she's taking this role very, very seriously, and she's like, this is my Sarah Connor moment in a way, kind of like reverse Terminator in a way. But I felt like she needed to have some like pathos to her. Like the whole thing for her was, oh, you weren't there for me, Dad. Like, how many times have we seen we weren't they I you weren't there for me, Dad. Like, my God, we just saw that with Army of the Dead. Oh, and this felt so much like another studio's version of Army of the Dead. Send in ragtag group of team into a terrible place to go do a mission, and the mission goes wrong, and we follow the main guy, that kind of thing. Dad, daughter, that type of thing. There's a lot of similarities to this as from the type of movie it is, to Army of Dead. And I think I enjoyed Army of Dead just a little bit more just because this was so fucking scatterbrained. This one felt like it was a 6-hour film and it was cut down to 2.5 hours, and there was still too much stuff, in my opinion. I always throw that in there because someone's like, "Hey, I like this shit." Oh, that's great. That's fucking great. um, then do your podcast kind of thing. But this one, I'm like, I don't think it works either. So I kind of forgot his daughter's name. I apologize, Marie. I'm gonna call her that. So she requests he accompany her on a mission to capture a female white spike, which are rarer than the females typically encountered. They trap and cage the female, only to have hundreds of males descend on their position. As the helicopter with the female lifts off, Dan and Marai escape to a beach and radio for rescue. Marie reveals to Dan that, dissatisfied with his life after losing his job, he abandons his family and dies in a car crash in 2030. Which is like, holy shit. I mean, they're told several times by people that are like, we see what you're. I think the military says at one point when they're putting that like jump link thing on his arm, that we see how you're gonna die, but we can't say it. That's kind of a classic trope in many sci-fi, jumping to the future kind of things, movies. Car crash though, that doesn't sound like. I thought it was gonna be. He dies way before the spikes even show up. So and she's clearly got that. Uh, she's clearly upset with him, even though she's seeing him again. It's kind of a very mixed reaction in a way. Um, yeah, so it feels a little bit over dramatic. It feels like they're telling us what he did and not really showing us too much of what he did. I mean, there's scenes at the beginning with him and his daughter, him being there for his daughter in a way, but not to the extent where I was like, I didn't feel it, Mr. Krabs. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel the connection between. They didn't do the legwork to make me feel the connection between these two characters. Um, what do we have over here? White spikes are transported to a fortified oil rig close to Port Nelson, where the jump link is located. Marie creates a toxin that can kill the white spikes. The white spikes attack and overrun the base to free the female, and Marie sacrifices herself to send Dan back to the past. And so, like I said, this is a pretty intense sequence. I'm not gonna lie, this whole little bit, and even looking back at this trailer, they pretty much show the entire movie of a little bit out of sequence. But I mean, they show the compound, they show the white spikes, coming to attack. They really show a big chunk of it, and they even show one of the best money shots. I think this shot right here. I was like, God dang, why? I was so glad I didn't see this shot in the trailer, even though it's probably one of the best shots. And this shot actually reminds me of the shot of Superman when he is. I think he's covered. Let me see. I'm gonna find this for you. When Superman is covered. Hold on. What is it? Man versus Steel. Superman covered in in strawberries. I think it's skulls. Hold on. This reminds me of the scene when, yeah, this, I feel like this really is reminiscent of this one. Let me see. Yeah, check this out. Yeah, I really feel like this shot and this shot have the same composition. You know, I mean, look at that. I think that's pretty impressive, to be honest. Um, but yeah, you can kind of see that it's from like somewhat of the same studio. I would have said it's the same cinematographer, but did we find out it was the same? I think it was the same cinematographer too. Man versus Steel. Let me see. Yeah, we did. It is. Sorry, it's not Man versus Steel. It's Batman v Superman. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, I'll get back to it. Okay. So, anyways, very. It's got great composition. It's got good colors. I've never had a problem with Paramount's colors. I like the steely look of their sci-fi movies, um, but they do have that specific look. So, yeah, I don't think they did the legwork enough for me to feel the full emotion of losing Marie, but we do see Chris Pratt just like aching with it, and it is really hard to watch. To be honest, it's like, damn, seeing his daughter die, right, die right in front of him, and he's like, he's transported at the same time to the next place. And he's still in the moment of the last place he was just at. He's like, "Ugh," like freaking out and is upset, um, and so which by default would make him want to see his younger daughter much more, um, later. So, anyways, let me see. Although he returns to 2023 with the toxin, the jump link is destroyed. The world interprets the jump link's destruction as a sign that the future war is lost. And I think they say somewhere in the rules of how the timeline's working and stuff like that, that the jump link is constantly moving in time forward with the 30 years in front of it. So it's like you can't like go back to before the war was started. They can only continuously go forward, um, which is kind of interesting. Um, so yeah, while Dan brainstorms with his wife, Emmy, she deduces that the white spikes did not arrive in 2048 but came much earlier. Dan consults with Charlie and Martin, uh, a high school student with an interest in volcanoes, and they theorize that the white spikes have been on Earth since at least the millennium eruption in the year 946, and global warming caused them to thaw out and emerge from under the ice caps. My God, that I was floored when they decided to go with this part of the movie. There's a part right at the beginning where they're showing him as a biology teacher and stuff like that, and there's just one guy that's answering all of the questions, and it's that Deus ex, machina of that person that is in Transformers. He's in, I want to say he's in Armageddon. I want to say this is a trope in a lot of these movies I've identified here before, and that is establishing something corny and something that is going at the very beginning of the stories that may or may not become relevant later. It's normally a person, it's normally something someone says, it's normally someone babbling, it's something of that notion, and it's usually used as a throw off joke at the beginning of the movie, and then it comes back in the third act to come back and like so to say, like so to speak, help the protagonist or of some way to to defeat the thing or to save the thing or to to do the whatever to complete the mission. And they do it here again. So what do we have? Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous that they go back to this guy. I was like, what fucking ever. Dan leads a mission to Russia with Charlie, Doran, a few surviving future soldiers, and an estranged father, James, to prove his theory. That his estranged father, James, is apparently trying to be close with his daughter, and there's this big line of like family ties through every single one of these movies. Like Army of the Dead talk about, Dad, you weren't even there, man. And then we got Chris Pratt, like he's pissed at his dad, and then later his daughter's gonna be pissed at him, so everyone's just pissed at their dad. And so it's like, okay, that I understand the thinking and the writing behind the theater, behind what's going on here. I understand there's some father issues. My God, okay. So yeah, the thing is, he's an estranged father, but J.K. Simmons is such a fucking badass. He was just the voice in as Omni Man most recently when we covered. We've seen him in Whiplash. We've seen him in Spider-Man. We've seen him in 100 billion different roles. The dude cannot do any wrong, and he doesn't do any wrong here either. J.K. Simmons is one of the bright spots of this movie. Absolutely adored having J.K. Simmons on screen, and I honestly felt like they kind of fucked up. What they should have done was have Chris Pratt. I felt like it would have been cool to have Chris Pratt meet his older self of some sort, so that he can tell him, they can have some sort of self-reflection in a way. I thought that if J.K. Simmons and Chris Pratt would have played the same guy, that would have been totally way more interesting than Chris Pratt having some sort of father issue that sort of doesn't get resolved. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments about this review. Let me know what you think about what we're talking about and whatnot. What would you have done to the movie to make it better, or did it even need to be better? Am I being too harsh on it? Let me know. Look it up, podcast.com. Also check the comments. Thumbs up, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm gonna try to start doing all the intro, the outro stuff before we finish up the podcast, so that we can just call it a good one. But yeah, thank you all for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Let's finish up this review. So yeah, the team finds a crashed alien ship at the Academy of Science of the ship at this Academy of Sciences glacier of Kamasalat Island. How the fuck they do that, I have no fucking idea. I mean, I watched the thing. They does some sort of calculation, says that's when glaciers would have melted and shit like that. They find all this way too fucking easy. And this whole last paragraph that I'm reading is the last 45 minutes of this. It probably should have been, Chris Pratt comes back, gives the cure to everyone, and it just saves the world. This whole last 45 minutes is unnecessary and probably would have saved them a lot of money. So anyways, they find this bullshit. The aliens have crashed on Kamasalat Island. They debate telling the world about the problem, but decide that to end the threat right then and there. Once inside, they realize that the white spikes are not the aliens themselves, but rather bioengineered organisms, possibly used as a plant clearing weapon or cattle by another alien race. The team injects several of the dominant white spikes with a toxin. This kills the injected ones but wakes the others, and most of the team is killed. Doran, terminally ill with cancer and wanting to die on his own terms. Okay, so this is what the whole thing was. He was dying. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he's the one that was going back and fighting all these white spikes every time. And the most interesting thing we find out about him is that he's terminally ill. It's kind of a shortcut to making us feel bad about him in a way, and giving him a reason to, I guess, want to kill himself away. I'm starting to get tired of using cancer or being terminally ill as a way to have that individual just have a really cool explosion or a really cool way going out. I kind of don't mind if it's like if they're shooting their way out of something like a bank heist of some sort, but when they're going out and blowing stuff up, it's just like it's just not nearly as interesting these days, in my opinion. Like I said, so he's terminally ill with cancer, wanting to die on his own terms. He stays up to blow up the ship with the C4, and the explosion kills all but one. He's like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die all times. Ah! It's like, okay, let's just take it easy. Um, and so it kills all but one. Of course, was the big mother. It never kills the big mamba. Um, Dan and his father hunt and kill the one female that has escaped, leaving them and Charlie as the only team's survivors. It was really cool seeing, the uh, dynamics of Chris Pratt and this alien and J.K. Simmons trying to take it all down. I thought that was, I say really cool. I'd say it was a little bit more unpredictable than I thought. There was a couple times I was like, oh, JK's going down. JK's going down. JK's going down. There's no reason for this guy to JK's going down. I was like, Pratt needs to do something, my God. And he's using that thing that the tooth or whatever that Doran had. He's like stabbing. He's like like trying to stab the female alien White Spike, and it's just like intense. He's like, why don't you fucking die? It's like oh, who is this movie for again? Is this for families? It was advertised in for Christmas, I believe. Let me see. I don't think I have I don't remember if it says PG-13 or anything. Let me see if I can find one. I am curious what it was rated. It's rated PG-13, but I kind of felt like it was a little bit closer to rated R, just with the intensity of it. I don't know, but that's just me. Anyways, very end of the movie. So content. I gotta say, I felt like there was even weapons that they used in this movie that they saw in Army of Dead or whatever the hell we just watched. Army of Dead, that they use the same weapons. They even have like the saw, and they have some of the same guns. Like I was like, damn, they literally just watched Army of Dead and just said, I want some of these, some of those, some of these. And so, yeah. Content knowing that the war is averted and humanity is saved, Dan brings James home, his father, to meet his wife and daughter, determined not to make the same mistakes that Marie had warned him about from her future. And that is The Tomorrow War 2021, directed by Chris McKay. Thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Let me know what you thought of The Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War is streaming right now on Prime Video. Like I said earlier, I think I'd probably give it about a 7 out of 10, mostly because of the visuals. Unfortunately, a lot of the in-between parts were kind of forgettable. Would I want to see more in this world? Probably not. I'm not craving to watch any more of this world. I could go for one and done, but that's just me personally. Thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Take it easy.